Welcome to Movie Division. Today, I am going to recap the adventure fantasy movie entitled Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Spoilers ahead, watch out. The movie opens and we see a prisoner being led to his cell, where he meets his cellmates, Edgin and Holga. The monstrous prisoner gets excited to have a female cellmate, and as he tries to mess with Holga, she knocks him out within seconds, revealing that she is a warrior. In the following scene, Ed and Holga are working for the prison when Edgin informs her that it is going to be their last day here, as his friend Jonathan is going to help them in the Absolution Council, being conducted to decide their fate. The duo in front of the Absolution Council when Ed insists on waiting for Jonathan, but he is ordered to tell his story without Jonathan as he is late due to the storm. Ed starts his story by stating that he has not always been a thief. Rather, he took an oath to become a part of Harper's faction, which was a group of people helping others without anything in return for their services. Ed's wife also supported him in his decision, and he helped catch many robbers and the Thieves Red Wizard. Being a Harper leads to many enemies, and it happened too soon for Ed too. One day, a group of Thieves Red Wizards broke into his house and killed his wife, but he was not lucky to be there to save her. Ed's wife directs him to save their daughter, Kira, and passes away. For a few months, Ed lived miserable as he was not able to manage his daughter, but then Holga came into their lives and took pity on Kira, after which Ed and Holga developed a brother-sister relationship. He also adds that Holga was categorized out of her tribe for falling in love with a man out of their tribe. Ed states that when his wife died, his oath to Harper also ended, and they decided to start stealing. As time passed, they involved Kira with them and ensured the council that they never killed anyone or stole from those who were very rich. He informs the council that after some time they made a team with Simon, who was a sorcerer, and Forge, who made them dream big. He reveals that everything was going right until a red wizard named Sophina came into their lives. She needed them to steal a treasure from Kona's Keep, which was where the place was where only Harpers were allowed. And since Ed had been one of them, he had access to that place. At first, Ed disagrees to help her, but then Forge lures him by telling him that there is a tablet of reawakening along with the treasure that can bring one person back from death. Ed thinks of his wife and leaves with his group and Sophina, lying to his daughter. Ed has to lie to his daughter because he does not want to give up false hope because he may be wrong about the tablet. Eventually, Ed and his team get inside the Kona's Keep, and after stealing the treasure, when he attempts to get the tablet of reawakening, the guards arrive and attack them. Sophina freezes time and escapes from there with Forge, while Simon also manages to save himself. Ed passes the tablet to Forge before freezing, and Forge promises him to take good care of Kira. When the court is noting down its decision, Jonathan arrives, and the duo uses him to escape from there. Meanwhile, the jury says that they were already going to leave and that there was no need to escape. The duo then returns to their house and wonders where to find Forge now. After that, they are sitting at a bar when Ed spots Forge's picture and realizes that he has become the Lord of the Neverwinter. But they are confused about how he got there. In the following scene, they arrive at Forge's fort to see him, and on their way, they discuss a competition called the High Sun Games, and no one has won it so far. The duo is waiting to see Forge when Kira meets them and seems mad at her father. Kira reveals that she is very happy with Forge, and Ed feels something is wrong. He apologizes to her for lying to her, but then Forge comes there and meets his old friends warmly. On being asked about their release, Ed and Holga lie to Forge and Kira that they were released for their good behavior and question Forge about how he ended up being the Lord of Neverwinter. Forge explains to them how he has taken care of Kira and reveals that he has achieved everything with Sophina's help. Ed and Holga are thrilled to learn that they are still together. And when Ed demands the tablet of reawakening, Forge turns Kira against her dad and makes her leave, thinking that her father has been lying to her and is here for the tablet. After Kira leaves, Ed and Holga comprehend that it was Sophina and Forge's plan to get them arrested, and that Forge has sold them to Sophina. The duo attempts to attack Forge, but Sophina traps them and orders Forge's men to behead them. When the soldiers are about to chop off their heads, Holga distracts them by engaging them in a conversation and taking out a brick from the floor. She uses the brick to defend herself and overpowers the soldiers easily. Ed and Holga are thinking about their way of approaching Kira when they think of stealing all the gold from Forge so that he may lose his power before the High Sun Games. Ed decides to make a team and thinks of starting with their reunion with Simon, who is not a good sorcerer but can be helpful to them. The duo arrives at Simon's magic show, where he is seen stealing valuables from his audience rather than entertaining them. Suddenly he spots Ed and Holga there and loses control, resulting in being caught red-handed. Simon uses his magic tricks and finally makes his way out of there, ending up being a part of Ed's team again. Ed explains everything to him and mentions that they will need someone with special abilities to turn into random animals to sneak inside Forge's fort. Simon informs them that he knows a girl named Doric who is a person with the same abilities and may agree to help them, revealing that she has rejected him once for his lack of self-esteem. Later, the trio arrives at a location where Simon shows Ed some glimpses of Doric's capabilities. She defeats Forge's soldiers by turning them into an owl bear and rescues her friend. Simon then approaches her with Ed and Holga, making her recall how she rejected him. Ed tells Doric that they are here for the downfall of Forge, but she replies that she does not believe humans because she was abandoned by them by being dishonest. Somehow, Ed assures her of her determination to bring down Forge, and Doric adds how her people tried to question Forge about his unfair rule, but he turned them into enemies. She states that she is becoming a part of their team not for money but to avenge his people's demise and the houses Forge has burned. On the other hand, Sophina takes to her teacher, Sazas, and informs him that she is sick of Forge now, but he suggests her to use him for a little while and then she can get rid of him. Suddenly, Forge comes there and orders her to get ready as his guests have arrived. Forge shows his guests the preparation for the High Sun Games and leads them to the safe where the treasure is locked. When asked about the details of the safe, Sophina mentions that the safe is protected by a Mordenkainen seal, which is nearly impossible to break. Then senses the presence of some wild soul with them and eventually recognizes Doric, who is inside the room and has transformed into a fly. When soldiers start looking for her, Doric transforms into a mouse, a bird, and a cat. But despite this, she is still recognized by Sophina. Subsequently, Doric escapes from Sophina by changing herself into a deer and reunites with Ed and his team. She informs them that the safe is protected by the Mordenkainen seal, upon which Simon reveals that the seal cannot be broken by the strongest sorcerer except for the Helmet of Dysfunction, which disables all the enchantments. Ed listens to Simon to talk about the helmet and motivates him to do it, but they need to find the helmet first. Holga states that she can help them get the helmet as her tribe participated in the Cult of Dragons, and they will need to go to Evermore's now. Upon discussing the method of talking to the dead, Simon mentions that he has a token that allows him to talk to any dead body and ask him 5 questions. Meanwhile, Sophina calls another Thyan named Drowless to help her get rid of Ed and his team and orders him to kill the soldiers who failed to capture Doric. Ed and his team arrive at the Evermore graveyard, where they question many dead soldiers of the Cult of Dragons and eventually learn that the helmet has finally been handed over to a man named Jenk. Ed learns about Jenk and disagrees to approach him for his help, as Jenk is a member of the Harper faction. Holger requests him to think of his daughter, after which Ed is convinced to find Jenk. They arrive at Jenk's town, where they find him helping a cat mother recover her son from a giant fish. After that, Holga approaches him and Jenk denies talking to her without even knowing her. Upon revealing her intentions about the Red Wizards and Forge, Jenk leads them to his place and informs Ed's team about Sazas Tam. He mentions that Sazas Tam was very hungry for power, so he gathered all the people from the capital and casted a spell on them that turned parents against their kids, and the Red Wizards were turned into immortals after consuming all the souls. He also adds that Sazas has now teamed up with Forge to keep Neverwinter alive. Doric reveals that they have the same enemy now and will need the Helmet of Disjunction to get rid of Forge. Jenk takes an oath from Ed that he will give all the riches of Forge to the poor and proclaims that he has hidden there the helmet and underworld. He leads them to the entrance of the underworld and tells Ed about how he survived Sazas Tam's smell and escaped from there. When they are on their way to the underworld, Drafus keeps an eye on them. Eventually, Ed and his team get inside the underworld, and Jenk stops him after spotting the brain-like creatures, revealing that these capture the minds of intellectual people and control their bodies. The creatures leave, after which they stop in front of a bridge, and Jenk complains to them the formula for crossing the bridge. But Simon steps on the bridge and makes it collapse. They are all concerned about reaching the other side when Simon spots Holda's stick, which he got from her ex-husband. He uses the stick to create a portal, and they easily approach the helmet. When Jenk passes the helmet to Ed, Draelus and his men arrive, and Jenk fights them. He easily overpowers Draelus's men after a small fight and orders Ed and his team to escape the underworld before Draelus and his men may revive. They are running for their lives when a giant dragon appears in front of them and follows them. Draelus and his men are killed during this time, while Ed and his friends get trapped inside a cave. When the dragon arrives there, the cave starts filling with water. Ed suggests Simon to use his candle trick and set a fire when the dragon opens its mouth. Simon does the same. And finally, Ed and his team escape safely. Jenk gets permission to leave, and Ed gets emotional while saying goodbye to him as he has done a lot for them. After that, Simon puts on the helmet and finds his great-grandfather in front of him, who questions him about the reason for being there. But Simon fails to give him a proper response, as a result of which he is thrown away. He informs Ed that he cannot do it as he lacks the confidence to have the helmet. Simon and all other team members quit except for Ed. He gets emotional, stating that he always failed everyone in his life, and his wife died because of him as he became greedy for the gold, which led her to death. He claims that he is going to sit down and figure out another plan to defeat Forge rather than quitting. Simon, Doric, and Holga are impressed by Ed's words, so they sit next to him. They all think about another plan and consequently find another plan. They decide to sneak into the fort by planting a portal on something that will be taken inside the treasure room. The next day, they buy a mirror, and after creating a portal on it, Doric places it inside a buggy being taken inside the treasure room and leaves by transforming into a fly. The mirror is kept inside the treasure room, but it falls to the ground. On the other hand, Forge starts the High Sun Games competition, and Doric orders her fellows to leave while she makes room and enters through the portal by changing into a worm. Ed, Simon, and Holga distract the guards using a spell, but soon their cover is blown and they are tailed by the guards. Holga stops and fights the guards, while Simon and Ed get separated on their way to the vault. Holga overpowers and kills all the guards following her, while Simon puts on the helmet as the guards find him. He again encounters his grandfather, but this time he punches him, stating that it's his time and takes control of the helmet. He says the mantra, which disables all the enchantments and knocks out the guards. Holga joins Simon, after which they get inside the vault and find nothing there. On the other hand, Dora crosses the portal and learns that Forge is shifting the gold someplace else. She gets knocked down by a guard from behind while Sophina captures Holga and Simon inside the vault. Ed is trying to uncover what is wrong with his teammates when he finds Kira in her room and approaches her to apologize to her. Unfortunately, Sophina captures him and Forge also joins them. Forge tells him that he has to turn his daughter against him because he thinks he is a better father for her, and he orders Sophina to kill him. Ed is allowed to speak and he demands to participate in the games because they are going to die either way, and Sophina agrees to this. Holga and others get mad at Ed for trapping them in games, but he mentions that he was the only way to save them all. Soon the games began and a mysterious tiger-like creature kept hunting the participants. Holga approaches a mystery box, but a monster attacks her from inside, and Doric saves her. After that, Doric's hand gets stuck in a jelly-like substance and Holga helps her get it out. After a while, the tiger surrounds Ed, and before it may attack and kill him, Holga saves him. Ed and his team reach the cage, but his mind clicks and he informs everyone that there is no use getting inside the cage as he tests them will keep getting worse until all of them are dead. Doric thinks of a plan and leads her fellows to the same jelly-like substance, tells them to get inside for 2 minutes and assures them of getting them out before they die. As they get inside, Doric transforms into a snake and saves everyone when they are pushed into the ground. At the same time, it is revealed that Sophina has intrigued Forge to arrange the games and gather the people so that she may hand over Neverwinter to her boss, Sazas Tom. Forge takes the permission and gets ready to leave with Kira. On the other hand, Ed and his friends find the boat full of treasure, and accidentally, Forge arrives there with Kira. Ed apologizes to Kira for lying to her and assures her that he left to get the tablet of reawakening to bring her mother back. When Kira starts believing in her father, Forge captures her and orders Ed and his team to get out of the boat. When Forge gets distracted talking to Ed, Holga spots potatoes lying next to her and gets Kira free by hitting a potato into Forge's face. Then they leave the port and are very happy to get the treasure. They are on their way out when they notice that Sophina is going to hand over Neverwinter to Sazas Tom, after which Ed turns the ship backward. They distract everyone in the arena by gaining gold and riches from the sky, and Ed claims that he is now going to keep the promise he made to Jang. Upon entering the fort, Ed orders his daughter to keep hiding no matter what happens to them. Sophina gets mad at them for getting everyone out of the arena and attacks them. She brings a statue of Dragon to life and controls it to fight with Ed and his team. Sophina feels difficulty fighting with them together, so she stops the time and freezes everyone. She gets closer to Ed, telling him how she is, but then Kira puts on a bracelet in Sophina's hands, due to which her powers vanish. She wonders about what happened, and Ed reveals that it was their plan to keep her distracted, so that Kira could wear the bracelet on her wrist to disable her powers. All of a sudden, Doric attacks and kills her brutally. As Ed and Kira return to Holga, they get worried after finding her injured. Simon tells everyone there is nothing to be done to save her, and Holga dies, hugging Kira and saying that Ed is a good man. After Holga dies, Ed looks at Kira and she allows him to use the tablet of reawakening to save Holga. Ed proclaims the mantra and brings Holga back to life by using the tablet, and she hugs them both. Later that night, Ed and his team witness the beautiful celebrations of Neverwinter, and following that, we are told that they were rewarded for their celebrations after the real Lord of Neverwinter awakened. Meanwhile, Forge is seen in front of the same Absolution Council when his pardon gets rejected, and he tries to leave using Jonathan but ends up being caught, and the movie ends here. If you enjoyed the recap, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell notification to get notified when we post the next fascinating recap. It really helps the channel. Thanks for watching!